so.
Hi, good evening. I apologize for my absence. It's weather related, but not to driving. I've had a bit of an accident. At any rate, this meeting of the WSESU will come to order. This meeting is a hybrid meeting, which means that some or all of the public body is meeting remotely and some are meeting physically in a previously noticed location where the public may attend to observe, listen, and participate contemporaneously. Please note that while we will strive to provide means for those attending remotely to participate in the public comment period, there may be technical difficulties or reasons that otherwise prevent or interrupt remote public participation. Therefore, it is important to note that the open meeting law only ensures the public's right to participate and comment at a public meeting by attending at the designated physical location as posted in the notice and agenda. If a member of the public or the public body has technical difficulties accessing the meeting remotely, please alert us by email. In the event of a technical difficulty that cannot be resolved, we may continue the meeting if necessary to time and place certain. Please note that all votes taken during this meeting that are not unanimous will be done by roll call vote in accordance with the law. Thank you very much for putting up with me on that, everyone. Carrie, may I turn the meeting over to you? I'm having a really hard time here.
You may.
Thank you.
I will get the agenda up and running. Thank you, Anne. And I will do that. Okay, we have the consent agenda, which includes the approval of minutes of December 3rd and the warrants and payroll as presented. Would anyone like to move the consent agenda? So moved. Thank you, Kim. Any comments, questions? Sorry, I gotta run into you. All those in favor of passing the consent agenda?
You have a hand up.
Oh, I have a hand up. Hold on, I gotta switch over to Zoom. This is gonna be the jumping around.
Yeah.
All right, Tim, let me unmute you. Tim, may we hear your question? Yep, we can hear you.
Okay, I see on the agenda that the new proposed policy is up for a second reading. My understanding at the last meeting that it was tabled. So if the first reading is tabled, then this should still be the first reading of the...
Tim, we're on the consent agenda right now.
Oh, well, I'm talking about the agenda. Okay.
Oh, you're talking, okay, we're on the consent agenda.
Okay.
Okay. All right, so all those in favor of passing the consent agenda as presented, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Administrative report. Mark, we'll turn it over to you.
All right. I have no new hires, resignations, or retirements to announce tonight. So I'm not going to freestyle with any other comments since we do have some weather going on outdoors. And we'll skip right to the finance report with a review of the SU budget and a focus on food service, transportation, and revenue. So, Frank, maybe we'll start with you.
Yeah, sounds good. I'll provide a brief overview of the summary budget, and it will be very brief because we have Harley and Steve Head here to give you much more insight on the food service program. And we've already gone through all of the components here of the budget, which include supportive instruction, the admin, the transportation, includes the diversity and equity, the curriculum assessment, the information technology budgets. I'm looking at the first page of our handout, and if anybody's online, this is the link under the agenda for tonight. We've gone over the special education services. Tate and his team did a nice presentation for us last week. We've also covered the grant programs, which is primarily the Title I federal resource to support instruction. So tonight we're gonna review the food service. Got some very exciting proposals here to update our board and our community on. And on the summary page, you see That's a significant increase on food service, going from 2.7 million to 3.6 million. This is something we had anticipated. And Jim, did I give you a report?
Yes.
You got one? Okay.
Thank you.
And so we'll hear about why that is the case. I'll walk through the financial impact, and Harley Sterling will walk us through the sort of the standard of the program, the nutrition quality that we're sustaining, and the level of participation that we've seen. As we had reviewed in prior meetings with the board, despite the reduction in really important programming that are grant funded, that you can see reduced our $3.5 million in grants down to $2.6 million. Despite that, we did not push all of those loss of revenues and costs into any of our individual programs, but there was some absorption, as we talked about, particularly in curriculum and assessment, where some of the oversight for the Title I program previously was in the Title I, as it should be, but it's now in the curriculum assessment, which is that first group of budgets that we have reviewed. And that's why you see those increases that are above our inflation rate, but it's a rationale that we wish it didn't exist, but it's really a federal initiative to substantially reduce funding for public ed. So that's our overview, and this might be the first time we're talking about a total $34.2 million revenue proposal with a $34.7 million expenditure proposal. Okay, just farthest column over, fiscal year 27. So that's an intentional utilization of fund balance of $495,000. You can see at the bottom of that page, that summary page, we've ended the fiscal period as of just 6 months ago, June 30, 2025, at $3.2 million. So this $495,000, along with the $450,000 in the current period, is still within our resources, and it keeps us close to a 5% of total expenditure in terms of fund balance, and that's been a good target. Let's see. I have provided a couple of highlight statistics here, page 2, in a similar format that we ran over last year, and we've discussed the employment being up a little bit, but it's primarily in special education services, as we discussed last meeting. Grant-funded positions you see are down from 9 positions to 6. And then we had talked about the proportion of students on IEPs growing, where the total enrollment has been flat, and now it has seen some kind of a decline in the last 3 years. So those are challenging trends as it relates to student need, and then funding in Vermont, a cost per student model. Last thing maybe I'll cover that you've seen in prior years, but we didn't cover it at the last meeting. Page 3 of the handout is how we allocate costs to our districts, and we have not changed this since the merger, where we had to really work through statutory requirements around how supervisory unions allocate costs, and acknowledging that Vernon is a member of the SU and participates fully in the K-6 special ed programs, but at the high school, Vernon continues to be a tuition town. So that's why there's a little extra narrative in the middle of that document on page 3 that explains how we have to parse out those costs. So that's my overview, and I thought we could turn it over to Harley to talk about food services, unless there's any questions on that part of our budget.
Any questions from the board? Any questions online? Okay.
And then if you follow along in your handout here, the far right references the page numbers of the full document.
Love that.
Yes, and
Nice addition, Frank.
all right.
Now wait, question, is that the page number on the
It's on the
portrait side?
Yeah. So,
Okay, thank you.
Yep, and food services starts on page 98.
Okay.
And it is on, as I say, the portrait.
Yeah.
And the reason for that is there are multiple types of reports that come out of the general ledger, and we pack them all together and make it easy on you. So page 98, and I'll just say one more thing, and then I think we'll learn a lot from Harley and his team. Page 98, you see the revenue itemization. There are lots of different types of revenue. There's multiple pages of different revenue assumptions, and this has to do with the way in which we report meals served in the different categories that the child nutrition program runs. So that's through page 103. Total revenues you see going from 2.7 million to 3.6 million. And we are balancing this budget. We are balancing the budget through a number on page 118. It's a number we haven't seen for several years. But last, is it the last number? I'm looking for the local contribution. And it's, yes, there it is on page
Last page.
102. 357,000.
Where are you?
So page 102
Up 118?
of 118, yep, toward the back. And the very last group of numbers are in what's called the district-wide program, so they're not associated with a specific school site. It serves all sites. And you see that 357,000. Eventually, that will need to be assessed to the Windham Southeast School District and the Vernon School District. But we have the last of our deferred revenue that we accumulated as a result of the pandemic, and when the USDA was subsidizing us at a higher rate than our costs, we took those surpluses, and then we also had retained assessments that we had made in prior to the COVID pandemic, and we had put them in as deferred revenue just for this purpose. We knew someday this would get unwound, and then we would have to start assessing our districts. But at this point, that 357 is on our balance sheet, and it's in cash and deferred. We don't have to raise it again.
Okay.
But in fiscal year 28, 29, there will be a version of that number that goes into the local district budgets, unless Harley does some other magic, which he seems capable of. So there's our overview. If you want to just give us sort of the program outlook and maybe some of your goals.
Sure. Adjustment, I didn't prepare any specific storyline or presentation. So I'm definitely gonna defer to you in terms of how much time you want me to take waxing, because I can definitely talk. I mean,
Give us a good overview of what are we getting for our however many millions of dollars?
3.6.
$3.637 million.
And usually it's like a 10 or 15 minute overview,
Yeah.
and that's
okay. Well, so the first thing in terms of finance of school nutrition programs that everybody needs to understand is that the school food account is an enterprisal fund, right? It's revenue and expenditures that balance out. And so that's what Frank's talking about with the $3.6 million revenue. We're really looking to scale that as much as possible. That's the model that I believe in for providing high quality school nutrition, is to try to seek revenue sources rather than just skimp on costs. We talk about this a lot, like the amount that the government pays for a school breakfast is like $2.90. So you need labor, you need electricity, you need all your overhead, and you have about $1 at the end of the day to feed a kid a breakfast. So 30 cents for a milk, 30 cents for an apple, 30 cents for a Pop-Tart. That's what USDA prescribes is high quality child nutrition. So there's two ways to get higher quality food on the plate, and that is either go out and seek revenue sources or try to get really creative with what your staff can do. And that requires professional labor, that requires livable wages, that requires people who want to stay in the community and see this as a long-term career and not just a day job. So we're certainly taking that approach. We've hired 23, correct me if I'm wrong, Frank?
Yeah, that's correct.
We fully brought in everyone who was already working for the food service management company previously. And we're reinvesting in their training, teaching them how to really get the most out of the tools that we have in the different kitchens, and trying to make the best quality product that way. So through staffing and through seeking additional revenue. So the primary driver of that $1 million increase in the revenue is the summer food service program. We started a really ambitious summer food service program that I kind of debriefed in September or August. Vermont AOE just published that we did 1.5 million summer meals free for kids this year in the state of Vermont. And WSCSU was 10% of that. We did like 150,000 free meals, fully federally funded. So it's new federal dollars coming in to this school district that is going to our wages for the people that live in our community and work in our schools and our school kitchens. It's going to our farmers, our food vendors, and of course it's feeding kids. Then the other driver of that revenue expansion is trying to increase participation. To get more kids to choose to eat school breakfast, choose to eat school lunch, and then the other programs that we offer, Light Supper program. We're doing everything we can to make food that's appealing to a diversity of tastes and preferences. It's really hard to please everyone all the time, but that is what we're doing, and we're building, and we're making a lot of progress, and there's been a lot of really great things happening in terms of the menu and sourcing. We're aggressively trying to get the local food purchasing grant this year, where 15% of our purchases will be Vermont local. That's certainly the goal, hoping that we can do that. And so that upfront cost spent on buying local food will come back to us in kind in the form of a grant if we are able to achieve that 15% local figure. The other thing that we're doing to expand revenue is just seeking grant opportunities to address critical infrastructure where we can. Last month, we were really fortunate to be awarded the Kendall Food Vision Prize, which is a private grant fund to help build resilient food systems. This was a nationwide grant. We were awarded $99,000 to hopefully address some critical pieces of school kitchen infrastructure throughout the district. And we're gonna keep applying for things like that, and that's a big part of what our admin team is charged with doing is, I mean, I like to think of like every dollar that the district is spending out of local, we're going out and seeking as many alternative funding sources as possible to bring money into the program to enrich what we're able to offer on the menus, what we're able to offer in terms of wages, to retain high quality professional staff, and to just bring a program that's going to enrich and help the whole community thrive and hopefully enhance the educational experience for everybody. So that's kind of the overview, but seeing as how this is the financial presentation, my understanding is a big part of what I'd be doing is just sort of trying to decode this whole budget if anyone had any specific questions. The only thing that I'll point out right off the bat that's different is that we broke out everything from Academy School, which used to be the Brattown schools combined. We tried to increase the resolution of the budget by splitting that out into Academy, Green Street, and Oak Grove.
Oh, nice.
Or, did I say that right? Academy?
Yep, that's right.
Yeah.
So that they're each their own budget, and so that there's going to be a variance between 26 and 27 in what's budgeted under Academy, but that's because it's been distributed to those two other sites and broken out. It's not perfect because there's a lot of, gets weird with people who work at the UHS where we prepare the meals for Green Street and then transport them, but it's a pretty accurate indication of how much we're paying the staff that serve Green Street, and then Oak Grove is definitely split out, so it's its own thing which provides more detail and the ability to sort of compare different sites and see what it's costing in each one relative to the number of students enrolled and the number of students participating in the program. It's not apples to apples all the time because different schools have different kitchen setups and what they're capable of doing, but that's one of the things that we're also trying to address with the investments in the critical infrastructure, both that we've done this year and that we're aiming to do in FY27. How am I doing in terms of waxing, Frank?
This is good. This is good.
You haven't lost us yet.
A couple of things that Harley and I have spoken about on the financial metric sort of level is unlike the former model, for many years the contracted service was a successful program, but when it got bought out by a large corporation, they really lost touch with the customer and the quality. So that model was an incentivized model, race to the bottom. The lower the cost per student, the more money the vendor would make because of the fixed nature of reimbursements that Harley's mentioned. And so the incentives were backwards. And we were really pleased the way Harley is, as we said, he's created the revenue. If you look at that page 102, we were in the zone there earlier, page 102, where there's the 357,000. You can also see that substantial increase in revenue for the summer food program that Harley mentioned. So you see at the bottom of that page where we actually ran a program that generated 73,000 in the prior year. And this year we budgeted at a similar level because we didn't know Harley and he hadn't been hired yet. But this future period, you see, we are going from that 70,000 to 768,000, and that's a very realistic projection based on what we actually did this year. We actually was well over 600,000, and this was the very first year. So just a tremendous contribution to our families, our kids, you know, what a difference it made. And then on the financial level, it is the lion's share paying for the increase in that food quality that Harley was just articulating. So it's, yes, the budget's up $1 million, but the revenue is up 700,000, which is remarkable.
I'd like to have a few comments if that's okay.
Yeah. Liz, I do see your hand up. We will get to you.
I think sometimes we forget where we came from. And Allie West built a beautiful program for us and a very successful program. As Frank shared, once the turnover happened, the 2 school years prior to this school year were extremely challenging. Weekly, monthly complaints from school staff who are advocating for their students, for higher quality, for better performance. Complaints from students themselves and from parents, and seeing participation at school sites go down drastically. My own children, I can share, just stopped getting food at school. So we saw an impact on our home life. So to make the decision to invest in our own program was a little scary last year, knowing the financial impact that would have, but leaning into just doing what's right and serving quality food that we're proud of on a daily basis was really inspiring thing to think about. And once we hired Harley, it was like, wow, now we really have a chance to build something great here based on our experiences with him in the interview process and background checks. And Steve Head ran the only successful food program in our school district those 2 years. I never heard complaints from Putney at all. But it was all the other schools. And it was a significant amount of administrative time. Frank and I participated in way too many meetings that we even want to think about with upper management corporate folks who would, tell us one thing, make promises, and it would improve for a week or two, but then it just went right back. So significant amount of manpower, man time in the program, from our educators to teachers to principals for sure, and then certainly a central office. So I can happily share, since Harley has been on board and has invested in professional development, has invested in his staff and training, and knock on wood, I've received 0 complaints. Not a single phone call. The amount of time that I've had to problem solve on, and not just me, the collective good, on advocating for better quality has diminished like tenfold.
Nice.
And now I get to spend my time hearing appreciation and thanks and praise. And not that it's perfect, and Harley would be the first to say that, we're still building to where we want to be. But I can confidently say we have very happy kids in all of our schools when it comes to food nutrition program.
And just to piggyback on that, I heard nothing but praise for the summer school program last year. I couldn't walk through the grocery store without somebody saying, "Did you know?" And I'm like, "Yep." And it's awesome. I mean, just the number of people, and even it's one of those things that would be the only good thing on Facebook, like people just complimenting the program, and it was like, "Thank you, finally, good news."
So certainly an investment, but the return is just huge. Yeah, very proud of our program and very thankful for Harley and Steve and Susan and all of the staff who have just been invested in a great product and a great service as well, aside from a product.
Thank you. I mean, we're definitely invested. It's easy for me to focus on the negative, because that's just how I'm wired, but there's a lot of good things happening, and we are not going to stop tweaking and growing and learning and doing everything we can, because the goal is really to just provide a world-class school nutrition program for this district that everyone can be proud of, and that leaves kids feeling empowered to come to school, take care of themselves so that they can get the most out of the education, right? That's really the goal of the school nutrition program, is to maximize the value of all the other programs by making sure that the kids are well nourished, want to come to school, and then maybe even have like a good experience too at the same time that can be part of their education. So we're working hard. We really are trying. And the summer food program, was really proud that the team was able to do that, because that was like building an airplane in the air to launch the third largest summer food program in the history of the state in a couple of weeks there. Because we started July 1 and just like hit the ground running. So part of the revenue projection there is that, we missed 2 weeks that we could have served those free summer meal kits. Again, it's called the non-congregate food program. It's like a bag of groceries, but it's 7 breakfasts and lunch for a kid, all in one bag, so that they only have to come get it once rather than 14 times. And so that increases the participation, and it allows us to serve products that, like a pint of blueberries from a local farm, that doesn't have to be necessarily portioned out into 7 different things. It can just sort of be bulk non-congregate, which means that they don't sit to eat together, they can take it home. And so the opportunities that provided, not only helping all the kids have a bridge for the food that they rely on when they're in school, but it allows us to build relationships with our local farms, our local dairies, our local orchards. We were buying tens of thousands of dollars. Again, all federally funded, all federally reimbursed through USDA, and feeding them into our community. And the other big piece of that is having a school year program with a food service management company where they work from August to June and then collect unemployment or do something over the summer. It really is appealing to some of our staff to be able to have that full-time work opportunity. Again, it's just really nourishing for the community. So hoping that with an extra couple of weeks and maybe some targeted expansion, we can build from there and continue to support the program as much as we can on our own, because that our staff certainly want to work, and summer is an opportunity of what we can do when we're not limited by, okay, there's only 130 kids in school. There's only so many kids you can serve a lunch to. You can't go out and necessarily bring in more customers. It's a school nutrition program. It's not just a business, but in the summer you get to be a little bit more entrepreneurial, and we certainly take that responsibility very seriously to try to support the program as much as we can.
Maybe the last thing I'd like to share, and maybe the last thing, is by investing in quality and service. Another outcome that we see, that I've seen, by being in schools and different cafeterias and classrooms, is kids are willing to try different foods. It's not the same old. They're noticing the quality, and they're willing to take more chances and try different things. And that's a really wonderful thing.
Questions? Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say another component, maybe Steve could share just a couple of words on what had been successful at Putney in really working with the teachers in the curriculum and connecting the food economy and food generation to teaching and learning. We're trying to expand that throughout more of our school sites. So if you want to just say a couple of comments on your work in that area.
Yeah. With the farm to school program, this district did participate in 2024. There's a lot of people go to these things and have great ideas. You have a lot of energy and everything, but it's hard to implement a lot of these things because people are busy doing other stuff. And with my position now, one of the things that I'm really pushing into is how can I organize this with all the schools. I have the time now to really try to implement some of these ideas. I was kind of starting with the high school and the middle school a bit, mostly the high school because they have the ACE periods, they're called, but like Peace Jam and some of the environmental groups. But getting these students really involved in the entire nutrition program, you know, and that's not just, we're not just talking about the food, but using reusable things rather than dumping stuff in the trash all the time, composting, recycling, etc. But the idea is that to get the drive from them, so that, you know, we always want to push stuff on kids, it seems like, but we want them to internalize some of this stuff so that they really leave this school with a real foundation in not only food nutrition, but everything that's involved with it. And it's a lot to work on because, you know, I kind of watch these different schools. What's nice now is I go around to these different schools and I can kind of see how things run. And there really isn't much of a, I'll brag a little bit about Putney, is that we really have been pushing this for the last 10 years. So you really see the kids engaged in doing certain things. These other schools, it's just, there's no thought process behind it. They don't think beyond the cafeteria, for example. And so how can we kind of teach them that everything that's happening in this cafeteria and then throughout the world is really affecting, you know, the environment, people's nutrition, etc. So I'm still kind of bumbling around a bit, trying to figure out exactly how I'm going to put all this together. But I really see a potential that's enormous in this entire program. And I was going to mention also perhaps working with Lizzie at the Career Center, because now that that program has started, we can start incorporating a lot of her ideas in with us and vice versa. So I'm doing all these different things and I'm trying to put it all together. It's just taking a little bit of time, but I kind of foresee something pretty positive coming out of this. Yeah.
All right, any questions from the board? Brian?
Yeah, I'm really impressed with the amount of money you were able to raise beyond, I mean, it's really huge beyond your budget. So I'm curious to know how confident you feel about being able to continue getting those sorts of grants in the next year and the years after that.
I'm confident that we're going to try.
Yeah, I am too.
I don't control the grant administrators, and we kind of had this talk because we just applied for this sizable farm to school grant on Friday. I really just see it as our responsibility as an administration team to take a swing when there are funding opportunities that could fit our needs. So I take that very seriously. Mm-hmm. That is my number one priority, is to try to return value so that the program stays healthy. So I will certainly seek out every opportunity that I think is a good fit, and I keep my ear to the ground in as many places as possible. I'm looking for those. And then, again, it's hard to promise because I don't control a lot, and the federal government has a tempestuous track record at the moment, but the outlook on the summer food program looks positive. Obviously that we have a lot riding on that. And then I'm confident that participation in the core programs is only going to grow as the staff get up to speed and the kitchens continue to get improved and they get used to the new recipes and et cetera, et cetera. So I'm confident that the core program finances are going to grow, and I'm confident that the summer food program will maintain or grow. And then additional grant funding is frosting for me, but I'm hopeful. We're off to a good start. Mm-hmm. The Kendall Food Vision Prize that I just mentioned, which was a competitive grant, and then we did submit for another one on Friday. So we'll continue to seek those opportunities.
I guess I would kind of add too, I think some of these grants are for infrastructural pieces,
Yeah.
which once they're done, there won't, things will be up to snuff in a lot of these kitchens. And so there won't be as much need for grants for the infrastructure pieces, the need for things.
It's a good piece to remind too, is like these investments, they're not going anywhere. They're attached to the wall. If you turn the building upside down, they stay there. So that's another really good way of framing the investment that the schools make to support the high quality school nutrition program.
Yeah, I was wondering because I'm aware that a lot of it is infrastructure, and I'm also aware that many grants are not renewable or are highly specific, and that's just the way the granting world works. So I guess I'm also, part of my question too, or maybe behind my thinking is like, what's our backup plan to maintain this kind of great quality for the long term?
Well, certainly I'm trying to teach myself, like I'm trying to train, I always say I'm trying to train my staff out of the job. Like I take professional development and creating a leadership pipeline very seriously, so the goal is certainly to train everyone so that they know how to run this program, and that all the operational stuff day to day at each school site, elementary schools, like we want our managers to feel empowered to run their kitchens and to understand the process behind things and to learn things that are above their pay grade as well, so that they understand the administrative piece, so that we're creating a deep and robust system that doesn't rely on the top and the administrators, which is again why I'm out looking for grants so that I can add value myself. But we're trying to create a ship that will steer itself and really create deep roots with the systems that we're training everyone to do. So infrastructure that stays in the schools, staff training and culture, and hopefully providing really awesome food for kids too that raises their standards and their expectations so that we can maintain stuff like that. Because buying local food is not always like a huge win. Like you think, oh yeah, this sounds great, you're buying local food, but kids, there's a lot of homes where Pop-Tarts, that is love. That is what the kids are used to. You have to create a very wide umbrella so that you're bringing everyone in and giving them the opportunity to try the kale, right? This is my stump about the kale and Pop-Tarts continuum. So as tastes change too, and you get kids involved with or excited about the kale smoothie, that sometimes even costs less than a Pop-Tart, like that's part of the resilience of the system too, is that salad and local food, potatoes, and give me some more examples here.
For local corn.
Overnight oats,
Yeah.
oatmeal.
Mm-hmm.
Bulk oatmeal is a lot more economical than individually packaged Trix flavored donuts. It actually is cheaper in a lot of ways to serve food that's been prepared from unprocessed raw agricultural products, right? But it requires that training piece, that getting the kids used to it, making it a part of the school culture, so that like this is the dish that they're used to. I tell that story about the Westminster Center School, where on like April Fool's Day, I wrote that we were like serving kale smoothies for breakfast, and all the kids were like, it was a joke, but they were like, where are the kale smoothies? Got us all excited for this. And I couldn't believe it, but once you can change the culture of what the students expect and what their tastes are, and it takes multiple times. It takes like, I don't know, what's the stat? It's a popular stat, like 12 times or something.
Yeah, something like that. And I guess I would add this, and we saw this at least in Putney prior to COVID. COVID kind of screwed everything up, but it was when we started to implement this program, there was a lot of pushback from the kids, particularly the older kids. They wanted the typical fish sticks and tater tots type thing. But we saw after several years the cultural shift when the younger kids, when the pre-K and the K showed up, and what they got was kale or salad bar and stuff like that. That was the norm. So they grew up those years, you know, from the first grade to second grade to third grade to fourth grade. It was the norm for them. You know, you would have half the kids go to the salad bar where before no one would go. And so it really is, you know, it's an education and it's a cultural shift and it takes time and a lot of the kids aren't used to it. But that's what education is, you know, and so that's what we want to replicate without, you know, and what the US Northeast is doing.
One other component to your question, Brian, is when you look through our revenues, virtually none of the 3.6 million budget is a one-time grant application. The 3.6 million is the reimbursement, the USDA reimbursements for actually meals served for lunch and breakfast, and there's quite a labyrinth of reporting and exchange. So we're not as vulnerable as, let's say, a program that every year they've got to go out and write a grant to fund operations. That is not in here. If we get those grants, we will write an amendment to the budget and we will add the revenue and the expense. But this is an operating budget based on known reimbursement rates that the USDA and the state of Vermont has funded.
That's a much better answer.
Liz, we've made you wait long enough. Let's see.
Okay.
There you go.
I got it. Yeah. Somebody I think has a computer on. They have a cold or something, and there's paper shuffling in the background, and it makes it really hard to hear. I think it's someone online. So if that person could mute themselves, that would be good.
Everybody actually is muted online. But we'll keep a listen at. But did you have a question other than that?
I had a couple of comments. Yeah, I did have a question. Have you noticed less food waste at the schools with the new food program? Because I know that occurred in Putney, that when we switched over, all of a sudden the food waste dropped quite a bit. So that's a question. But then again, I haven't been. Oh, can you guys be quiet for a second? Sorry about that. When my granddaughter was at Putney Central, she started there in first grade. They had this. I don't know if they still have it. Steve could tell you. But the third graders were the food ambassadors, and they would take like maybe 6 different kinds of tomatoes to every classroom, and the kids in the classroom would say which ones they liked the best, so they tallied that, and they went to the school like that. So they got math, they got input, and that was really great. The other thing I want to note is that my computer's gonna die. Is that again? It was third grade. They took the kale, which the kids didn't like, and they made kale chips and took those around, and those kale chips were the hit. I mean, you couldn't make enough of them to make the kids happy. So I'm really glad the district has switched. I know that was one of the goals of the program performance and equity committee, was to get the switch over. So thank you so much for doing that. All of our kids will benefit.
Thank you, Liz.
Thanks.
Other questions from the board? Anything else, Frank?
Well, I would say if the board is comfortable with the motion to approve the budget of $34,740,570 for fiscal year 27, that would be our tradition. We typically do vote this evening on the comprehensive budget, and it will allow us to proceed with integrating the assumptions into the Windham Southeast District budget and the Vernon District budget.
Yeah. Anne, what do you think? I know you were concerned.
It's on the agenda.
Oh,
Yeah,
it is on the agenda.
Yeah, let's take the vote because they do need the information for the SD budget to be voted on. So
Yeah, that's right. Okay, can you tell me that
Sure.
again?
Yep, and it's that total expenditures on page 1, 34 million,
Let me just make sure I've got that. 34,245,740.
740,
740. Sorry,
Yeah.
I was looking at revenue.
yeah, 570.
Okay, would someone like to move that the WSCSU board approves the FY27 budget in the amount of $34,740,570?
So moved.
Thank you. Kim, are there any questions about that we have not already asked over however many meetings we have had on this? If not, all those in favor of passing the FY27 proposed budget, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
I think we've had all the ayes. Any nays or abstentions? Hearing none, you have a budget.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. Thank you all. This is why we love December. All right, moving on. Is there any public comment on non-agenda items? Thank you both. Drive carefully.
Yes. It's getting slick out there.
So, any public comment on non-agenda items? Going once? Going twice? And seeing none, we will move on to new business. So we have policies being presented for the first reading. We have F5, searches, seizures, and interrogation of students by law enforcement, personnel or other non-school personnel. We have F37, district equity policy. And we have G13, acceptable use of electronic resources and the internet. All of these have been adopted by the SD and obviously gone through the extensive work of the policy committee. If there are any questions, we can talk about them, but otherwise we will consider this a first reading of those three policies. And we'll probably see. Second,
Oh.
this is second.
No,
this
you're
is
right,
first-
you're right. Sorry,
first
no,
reading.
this is the first.
This is first reading for those. So unless there are questions, of course, if you have any, feel free to reach out. Oh, we got someone who's all right, back to the agenda. So now we have the policies presented for a second reading. Those include F8, student medication, D12, prevention of harassment of employees, E19, behavioral threat assessment teams, and the proposed superintendent evaluation. So these are currently looking at a second reading. Tim, now is the time you can ask your question.
Okay, my first question is, how can it be a second reading when my understanding at the last SU board meeting, it was tabled, and when the first reading is tabled, the next discussion is still that first reading.
So I can look it up now. I was under the impression that we tabled it at the second reading.
We did. I looked it up earlier.
Okay, so the last meeting where we discussed this, where it was tabled, it was on the agenda for the second reading. So it's my understanding that because we tabled it, nothing happened and it moved forward as a second reading.
So at the last SU meeting, it was listed as a second reading?
Yes,
Okay.
and we tabled it. So I would think it moves from second reading to second reading because nothing happened, it was tabled.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So back to the agenda. So Any comments or questions on anything there as far as the second reading goes? I'm sorry, I keep switching my computer so I can see what's up. Tim, is your hand still up?
Yeah.
Okay.
So the proposed agenda as you have it, again, it eliminates teacher participation in the evaluation process, correct?
No, it does not eliminate it because they've never had it. So there's no elimination.
Okay, I mean eliminating it from my first draft that I presented
Correct.
just a year
Your
ago.
first draft had it. It is not in the current draft, but I don't like the term, we've eliminated teacher participation. That is disingenuous.
I wouldn't say disingenuous, but okay, I'll take the clarification. But I'd just like to reiterate a simple truth. Teachers are directly and substantially affected by the superintendent's decisions and leadership. So including their perspectives, it's not punitive. This, I think, would help the board make decisions on evaluation and rehiring and help the superintendent. Teachers' perspectives is not peripheral, central. And it's already recognized as central in many other issues in Vermont. Teacher participation in the evaluation process is not controversial elsewhere. It's standard practice. Yet for 3 years now, when this has been brought up, it seems like there's been an effort every which way to not do it instead of finding a way to do it. And it can be done. We do surveys all the time. A voluntary survey by our teachers is not a complicated task. So what I'm doing and what I'm saying is I'm urging you to reconsider the current draft and reinstitute language that guarantees teacher participation. We know they want it. Look at the 130 signatures on the petition that went out. That's a clear message from teachers that this is something that they would appreciate. I just don't understand the resistance. So can you tell me what the thinking is behind behind not having it in the policy?
I'll give you my opinion. As we've stated before, this is not the format for which to ask those questions.
Carrie, I can't hear.
You can't hear? Are we muted?
Still can't hear you.
Yep, hold on. Not that you can hear me. There we go. Oh,
Okay.
can you hear me now?
Yeah.
All right. I think we've had many discussions over these past 3 years. In my opinion, this is not the survey form to use for teachers. However, this board has looked at the idea of doing a separate survey, and I think that is the way to go. I can't say it any more times than that. That I'm not looking to exclude teachers. I don't want to waste their time. And this survey form would be a 45-minute waste of their time. And I'm not going to do that to our staff. Anyone else?
I agree that there should be a separate survey, which has been proposed. A separate survey done at the same time as part of the evaluation process.
Mm-hmm.
I've introduced that 10 item survey from Windham Northeast, which was discounted, I think, without much discussion. There's no discussion of that survey item by item, but I think that it would be accepted to teachers, and I just don't understand why a separate short survey. Of course, everybody knows that 52 item survey. I don't like it for board members. I think it should be much abbreviated. But for teachers, nobody's ever disputed the argument that 52 item survey is not appropriate for teachers. That's why the proposal was to introduce a separate survey at the same time.
Recollections may vary. Kim?
I like, it takes a lot of time, but the survey that we currently use to, to go over what the superintendent does, I think it's thorough and I wouldn't want to change it. It takes a lot of my time, absolutely, but it hits on a lot of points that a 10-question survey is not going to do. And I understand teachers want to participate. However, I don't know of many corporations or businesses where the CEO, CFO is evaluated by every single employee in the company. I know I don't get to evaluate my CEO. So I have a lot of concerns about that.
Any other comments, board members? Oh, Brian?
Yeah, I guess I need to hear more what the history and the discussion around this has been. And I'm not sure if some of the confusion comes because we're expecting that if there is a survey that goes to teachers, that it becomes a part of the official evaluation process, or does it need to be official, or can it be an informal survey that is considered or is considered as extra information, but doesn't carry the weight that the current survey does carry. So I have a lot of confusion about this, and I haven't been in on the history of the conversations. And so I need more of the explanation that you gave, Carrie, and maybe some thinking from the other board members of why they don't see or prefer not to do an informal survey of teachers.
For me, it's always been about this is not the right survey to use for teachers, but I agree with Kim. I think it's fabulous. As daunting as it is on the day I open it up to go through it, and I think, oh great, I opened this up and I don't know if I can leave it and come back and I'm stuck here for 45 minutes until I'm done, and I want to do a good job on it because it's a big thing that we do here. We have talked for a couple years about maybe we need to do some type of a staff, and I know we don't like this word, staff climate survey. I don't like that word, but I think how can we as board members get a different feel for what's going on in our schools? Are we as board members doing a good job meeting their needs on a multitude of items? I think that is different than our responsibility as an SU board to evaluate the superintendent. I think they are completely separate things. I want to take fully seriously my responsibility as an SU board member to evaluate the superintendent. At the same time, as a board member of both Vernon and the SU, and you guys are SD and the SU, and I think the SD would feel this way, we have a responsibility to have an idea, how are we doing as board members with all of our schools, all of our sites, all of our staff? And we have to be careful that we do it in a way that respects chain of command. Like, I don't want to go in and say, hey, I want to know what you think about this person. That's not our job. That is the exact opposite of our job. That is micromanaging, and that is getting in where we shouldn't be. But we do this. We do the budget. How'd we do? How do you think we're doing, and what could we as board members do different? So now I'm walking into this thinking maybe it's not even a staff climate survey. Maybe it's hey, what do you think about your school board members? We evaluate Mark. Maybe the staff needs to evaluate us. Let's look at it that way. I want the feedback from staff. I just want it in a way that respects their time and gets us something tangible, gets us something that we can use to make improvements for students. I don't want to waste people's time. I mean, that's where I'm coming from. If that helps in any way. This has been an ongoing conversation that I don't think is over, and I think we need to continue to have it to figure out what are we trying to get at.
Yeah, well, I think we can stipulate that a survey of teachers is different than what we have here for the superintendent.
Mm-hmm.
And that what's used for the superintendent should not be used for teachers.
Mm-hmm.
I think I'm hearing everybody agree with that. What I'm not quite catching though is, if I look at, and I haven't read through them all carefully, but if I look at the 10 questions or so that are at the bottom of this that are struck through, I don't know why that wouldn't give us information that would be helpful, and don't know why it would need to be considered official information or official data, but it may be helpful, and it may give the people who fill it out some sense of agency. And you also bring up the point of whether the board should be, there should be a survey about our own performance. But I think then we're getting into an area where we're really mixing three things. So, again, I'm not sure where to go. I don't have a strong opinion one way or another. And again, it'd be nice to hear some other people who've weighed in on this. Kim, I heard what you said about other places not doing a survey amongst all of their staff. There may be some organizations that do, and I don't know whether that's good or bad. If someone does, lots of places do a 360 evaluation on their staff, and the individual chooses who they want to have respond to that survey. And that's a whole different way of doing evaluations for the purpose of learning and growth and professional development. So,
I mean, these questions are great for state of the business. You know, if we want to see how the district is doing, but to be part of an evaluation of the superintendent, I don't think it's appropriate. But I think these questions to see how the district is doing and how the teachers feel, yes, if we're doing it as a state of the business.
I feel like we're going to have many more conversations. Tim, do you have a final thought? I'm trying to unmute you. Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
Final thought, Tim?
I don't know if it's final, but first to address Kim's thought about this not being done with other CEOs. My understanding from 2 SU meetings ago was that there would be a discussion. I think Deborah suggested that you discuss it with Cheryl Charles, because WN, the Windham Northeast, has used it well, I think, for a number of years. So why not talk to another chair of a school district who has been using it? That would just inform us all a lot better. I think, in fact, instead of a private conversation, I think it would be great if she could be invited to a public conversation. The issue about the 52 item, thank you, Brian, for clarifying that. Keep it. I don't like it, but fine, keep it. That has nothing to do with it. But again, I'm just befuddled as to why the SU board, in evaluating superintendent, one of the most important tasks that you do, shouldn't seek all the information, all the data that you can possibly get. And we know that teacher information, it's pertinent because they're impacted by the superintendent's decisions. And thirdly, I'll repeat again, this shouldn't be seen as punitive by any stretch. This is helping us all, you all, do your job in evaluating the principal, the superintendent, and the superintendent to gain valuable perspectives. And then lastly, why not, again, ask the teachers what they think?
Thank you, Tim. Oh, where did Tim go?
Pages.
Where'd he go?
He's still there.
I know, I was trying to, there we go, okay. All right, so we now move to Liz has got her hand up. Okay, Liz?
Yep. I agree with Tim. It doesn't need to be part of the formal evaluation, but it should be sitting alongside it. It could provide. I know Cheryl Charles, and I know that it's been very successful up there. It can provide really valuable information to the board. You are not teachers, so you don't know that aspect of what's going on. But it also gives the superintendent, if a bunch of folks, teachers are seeing that something's not being implemented, it should be, that's like a check and balance. You know, we have all these policies, but if they're not implemented, then how are you going to know? It's the teachers implementing all this stuff. So I have participated in that VSBA survey, and it was okay. I didn't particularly like the way they phrase things or things. Some of the stuff was just, in my opinion, ridiculous. But I think that this would be valuable for everybody. It's valuable that teachers know that they're heard. It's valuable to Mark to know if there's something that he can work on or how he's doing with regards to the staff. The staff are the most important part of our school districts. So they can give you the most direct information. And sure, there's going to be some out there who just are grumpy and nothing anybody could do would satisfy them. But I think most teachers would appreciate being able to have some input. But it's also a check and balance. Right now, you're the check and balance folks, but you aren't in the schools. You are not teachers. So you have lost a huge perspective that should be in an evaluation. And I cannot see any reason to not put out those 10 questions. It's not in the formal evaluation, but it does give you other information. And I think you need it. And I think it's your responsibility to get it. Because if you don't, then you are missing a check and balance. That's my that's my opinion. I think you're making a grave error.
Thank
Do
you,
not.
Liz. We always appreciate opinions. Tim, final time on this, and then we're gonna move on.
Okay, this is about the 360 that was kind of announced at the last SU meeting. I've been watching every SU meeting, watching the videos if I couldn't make it in person. But when was that ever discussed in public? It was kind of announced that there would be a 360 evaluation, but that had not been discussed in an SU meeting in public.
I'm not sure what you're talking about. I know at some point this conversation melded into we do want to do some kind of a staff survey, let's figure it out. I think that's the only public conversation we've had on it.
I'm talking about the meeting where there was a lot of teachers present.
Yeah.
And you can watch the videotape. She announced that there was going to be a 360 evaluation.
I'm not sure we announced there would be one. I remember discussing this back at the Canal Street School. Like the concept of a second survey has been out there kind of, but we
Well, okay.
I'm not sure what you're talking about.
Okay, I watched the video and it was very much presented as a board decision that there would be a 360 evaluation, including that was an announcement. That was a board decision. And in my mind,
It was not a board decision.
I've attended. This was just not discussed in public.
Yeah, Tim, let's listen to Anne and then we're gonna move on. Anne?
Right. 2 separate board members, separately and apart from each other, had batted the idea at me. And I had the same idea myself. And I said that it was in the very early planning stages because that was where it was. We have now moved into budget, and I would prefer to get through budget before we have any more planning. At no point was it announced that it was going out or anything like that. We have not had any meetings about it. I believe that possibly Carrie mentioned to me she had some ideas. I know I have some ideas. It hasn't been done yet.
Yeah. So we that is for future conversations. All right, anything for the parking lot? We have not been well, actually, maybe we've been good. We've never put anything in a parking lot. So yay, bravo to us. Okay, well, I guess.
Well, maybe what we just discussed should go.
That can go in a parking lot. We finally have something. Okay, so what are we gonna call this? I want a name that isn't going to additional board survey?
Staff survey,
State of the business survey.
climate survey.
I kind of like state of the business survey. I don't know. Maybe we need to discuss the name. State of the district. State of the districts.
Yes.
Vernon. All right, that's going in the parking lot.
State of the SU.
State of the SU. All right. Anne, are we doing an executive session? Do you want a quick one or what would you?
Just a very quick one. No action will be taken. Nobody else needs to stay. Mark, you can go home. And
Frank
it will be very
home.
short. So the fun, Frank, of course you can go home. Geez, I'm crow.
Yay!
All right, we move into executive session under 1 DSA 313A3, the appointment or employment or evaluation of a public officer or employee. And it is 6:22 and no action will be taken.